It's called Don't Touch My Hair, as you can see. The colouring for this video is so yellow. Hello, it's Layefa. How are you today? I am giving you booktube vibes because I've been reading. If I'm a mum without help, reading is a luxury. And if I make it to the end of said book, that means I really liked it. Don't Touch My Hair by Emma Dabriri, or is it Dabriri? I love this. Look, the fact that I made it to the end, the books that I've picked up in the past 2 years that I haven't finished reading, that are just looking at me and I'm looking at them and them looking at me and my shelf is just packing and packing. It's a really easy read. As a mother who runs a family who doesn't have help, it took me 2 weeks to read this book. Not like I picked it up every day. Of course I didn't. But collectively, from the moment I picked it up to the moment I put it down, it has taken me, I think if I didn't have a family and the responsibilities that I have, I could have read this in a weekend. But when I say a weekend, I mean maybe a Friday to Monday, because I'm a slow reader and sometimes I might go over certain things over again because I don't understand it. I have my dictionary beside me. I have Google beside me. You know, when you use Google for pronunciate, how to pronounce certain words, I use Google for that as well. And especially, it's really important to me how to pronounce it in a British accent. Have you read this book? How did you feel about it? Did you enjoy it? What did you not like about it? I found this really informative. I found it well researched, and I love how she basically uses, it's called Don't Touch My Hair, as you can see. I love how she uses hair to basically talk about history. She uses our hair, our black hair, our type 4 hair, more particularly 4C hair, also to back up her research, and even like things within pop culture that she's found interesting. It's all in that book. And do you know what? It's not a Solange Don't Touch My Hair. No, it's not that. It's added to the story of Don't Touch My Hair. Now, if you don't know anything about Emma, she is biracial, or as we say, mixed race. She's half Nigerian and half Irish. Oh my goodness. I tell you, Irish and Nigerians, we've got a thing, you know. We have a thing. Anytime, this is me going off on a tangent right now, just allow me. Anytime I've met an Irish person, I've always vibed really well with them. Always had a vibe with the Irish. Always. There's something about them. I don't know what it is, but there's always been a vibe. But they come with their own madness. Let's not get it twisted. They do come with their own madness. Yes, they do. But I've always had a vibe with Irish people. Should I start from the back? Because I've literally just put it down. Some of my favorite ideas that she talks about within the book is mapping. The title of this chapter is called Ancient Features, Maths, Mapping, Braiding and Encoding. In this chapter, she talks about fractals. I don't even know what fractals were, but it's a mathematical term for it's a type of math. It's the idea of infinity, and how basically our braiding technique, our braiding style, the corn rowing, as Americans like to say, and because of globalization, we're all now saying corn rowing, when in actual fact, I grew up saying cane rowing, and I want to bring that back because it's cane row, okay? She talks about fractals and how braiding is actually maths. She talks about the mathematical equations that it takes to braid, to cane row, to do that technique, and how like it's a simple technique, but it's been done for generations and generations, and something that is so ancient that our ancestors did it, our ancestors were doing it, and we do it now. It's like it's such an ancient hairstyle, but at the same time it's very futuristic. Like we'd be doing something that our ancestors did back in the day, but it's still very current in today's age. Oh my god, I just want to read this bit about fractals. Fractals are found throughout indigenous African design, yet were only discovered by Europeans in 1975. So it's interesting because it's very relevant to what happens even within pop culture. Something would be called or considered ghetto until it's in high fashion, until it's in luxury fashion. She talks about how some of the discoveries that the Europeans find, we as Africans had been doing it for years. We have been doing it for years, but it wasn't documented in that way. And it's interesting how she talks about when we learn math at school, it is like as an abstract thing. It's very abstract, and it's like an outside entity, and it's not really woven into our day-to-day lifestyle and learning. Like, you'd find a lot of us saying like, what on earth am I going to do with Pythagoras theorem in my current age? But if it's woven into our lives, the way fractals are woven into the African lives, like the way we do our hairs, even the way our cities were mapped out, the way certain Europeans would say how it was, other than the Benin tribe, the Benin kingdom, certain Europeans documented it as being scattered and all over the place, but actually this was very organized fractals, which is just like I just love it, because it's like, not only have I always found braiding very beautiful, and I enjoy, well, I don't know if I enjoy it. This book has taught me to really enjoy the process of braiding my daughter's hair, like cane rowing it. But it makes you feel like not only is it an art, but we're all mathematical geniuses out here. We're all mathematical geniuses out here practicing braids on ourselves and our children and our children's children, because this is an actual mathematical equation thingy bob. Also, what I liked about that is within this whole discussion of fractals, she breaks down algorithms and coding and computer coding, and how the simplicity of our braiding style, our braiding techniques is actually a technology that has just been disregarded and not really noticed by, I suppose, the Europeans who came to enslave us, but that's their business. She also, in this final chapter, talks about how braiding was used as a form of mapping for escaped slaves. Wait, have I said that right? Certain designs were basically maps for slaves to escape to freedom. And there's this place in Colombia called, oh my gosh, comment below if you know what it's called. San Balicio de Blanque. I think that's what it's called. Oh my God, I'm butchering names out here. This place in Colombia where escaped slaves would run to freedom, and it's called San Balicio de Planque. Please, this is the technology or the genius that is within our braiding styles, our braiding techniques, and we don't even appreciate them ourselves. You know what I really like about this book, actually? I like how the language is very easy to understand. It feels like it's written to me. I feel like I'm part of the audience. There are certain books that I've read and I haven't managed to finish it because it feels like it's not written for me. It's not written with me in mind. Like, she uses certain colloquialisms like do you, boo, and bye. Well, she doesn't actually say bye Felicia, but I could imagine her saying that in the book. But she uses certain colloquialisms, and I love that. So it feels very like even I don't know if I'm her target audience, but it feels very like digestible for me to understand. I like how she talks about her experience as a child living in Ireland, being very fair-skinned, but having hair that isn't typical mixed race hair. So she's a mixed race girl, but she doesn't have mixed race hair. She has very African hair. She has black hair. She has what some might call bad hair, but it's not bad hair because it's full, it's beautiful, it's luscious. She has beautiful hair. I love how she talks about that. And I like that you can tell that from her studies and all her education, she understands her like you know how some people are she's been woke from wokety woke. You know that for sure. And then also understands her light skin privilege, because I think that was really important for me in terms of reading it and relating with it, because yes, there's texture discrimination and I can relate with her because I suppose we have similar texture hair, like she's a 4C and so am I. But also, like, she understands that had her skin been darker, maybe she would have been treated differently in certain instances on certain occasions. Loved that. I like how she breaks down the hair typing system for those people who are not aware and haven't really read. You know what I found really interesting as well? Because she talks a lot about history, and it's all interwoven in this whole hair story. At one point she talks about, the beauty industry as a whole, and obviously we all know that, like, black women, we buy out the beauty industry 10 times over, if not more. It might not be targeted at us, we're not featured in these adverts, but we are the ones always buying, and we're always the ones trying to attain a beauty standard that was never meant with us in mind in the first place. And I love how she talks about the African aesthetic and how before colonialism, before slavery, how we had our own beauty standards. And it wasn't actually to have our hair out or in big afros, that having your hair in an afro is not actually an African hairstyle. It's actually a European hairstyle. It is I suppose, a diasporic hairstyle from, the civil rights movement and the Black Panthers wanting to wear their hair out in rebellion to this whole, fight the power movement. So they wore their hair out in these big fros, but in actual fact, this wasn't a style that our ancestors practiced. To have your hair out like that wasn't considered beautiful. We always had our hair neatly done, neatly braided, neatly styled, and this whole neatness it's always been part of our aesthetic. Like, we might have a messy bun, but our messy buns are never really messy. Like, the top is messy, but like it's really sleek and swooped, and our baby hairs are all in the right place. That neat aesthetic has always been, that's part of our ancestors' look anyway. You know how like a white girl might practice a messy look and it's actually messy? That's their look, but I suppose we've adopted that through assimilation and trying to, I suppose, conform, or whatever the words may be. I loved how she broke that down and was like, well, according to her research, this is not having your hair out in an afro, even having your hair out in a braid out or a twist out. It's not an African aesthetic. It is not this is not something that our ancestors did. Yes, it's something that we practice now, and wigs and weaves and blah, blah, blah. But if we're looking back in time, in history, with the artifacts and the materials that we have there to look at, it wasn't part of our look. So I love how she broke that down. I also love how, within talking about the beauty industry and some of the affluent black women, the whole brown paper bag thing, and even what I found interesting is she mentions Josephine Baker, who I love her. Like, I've always been fascinated with her aesthetic. Absolutely gorgeous. And I don't know, for some reason, growing up, I just always assumed that she was a dark-skinned woman. Maybe because obviously all of the images that I saw were in black and white. Obviously, yes, I've watched the biopic with who acted as her in the biopic? I can't even remember. Maybe that's what influenced my imagery of her. I just assumed that she was a dark-skinned woman, but in actual fact, it seems that she was biracial. Maybe not light, but light enough. Like, this also informs, yes, she was celebrated in that time, but she wasn't a dark-skinned woman. Well, this isn't what Emma says. This is just me adding my own 2 pence and making the assumption that for her to have been that big, no way was she a dark-skinned woman. She was dark, but not too dark. Her time, she was like an equivalent of what we would call Rihanna, who is, this amazing, musician, and she's this mogul, has fashion, beauty, all of these things. That's what Josephine Baker was at that time. That she had, I think she had her, according to the book, she had her own cosmetic line, something called the Baker look. It was called the Josephine Baker pomade, which started the whole tanning craze. Some sort of powder. White women would use it. Obviously, Emma suggests in this book that this could have been the craze that started the whole tanning for white people. Like, we've always known that white people have been tanning to, try and get darker, to resemble us, but not too dark. It's that right the right, you could be brown, but the right sort of brown. And, you know, they were using these powders because they wanted to get that Josephine Baker look. And then that's how tanning actually, she suggests that that's how tanning sort of started. I mean, it could have been, it could have not been, but I wouldn't be surprised, because then again, it's a, you know, she has a chapter in there which is very, something that we say all the time, like within the Black community, called everybody wants to sing my blues, but nobody wants to live my blues. White women wanting to look like us, pay for the features that we naturally have and be celebrated, whereas these are the same features that we have and we get ridiculed for them. Like, I'm going to say it now. I'm going to say it now, and I'm going to keep saying it because I believe this to the core bone. Just like how white people have started tanning to try and look a little bit brown, but not too brown, came from us. Just how now a big bum is a craze, that everybody wants a big booty. And that has always been a beauty standard within the African culture. Having big round bums has always been an aesthetic, but now it's taken out of proportion, and now even ourselves, we are starting to look like caricatures of ourselves, because we're also, you know, having surgery as well to have this, I suppose, this Kim K look, which is just not the one. And then, you know, going further, the whole getting plump lips. And I remember being in school, hear me out, because I know I've gone off on a tangent. I remember being in school and you would get picked on for having big lips. You would be called bubble lips or rubber lips or drop lip, like for having big lips. And now white women do it, or white people, when our big lips are on white people, it's celebrated. And it's like, hang on. Now, I say all of that to say this. Love your big noses. All of my African big nose sisters out there and brothers, love your big noses, because I'm telling you now, Layefa said it here first, if somebody else isn't already saying it. This big nose, they are soon going to be paying I'm telling you, they're going to be paying to widen their nose. They're going to be paying to get their nose broadened or widened to again look to a... Am I saying something? So where you're there contouring your nose and doing the most, trust me, it's gonna happen. Don't say I didn't tell you. And then you'll be like, oh yeah, actually I like my big nose. Love your big nose, because I've been loving my big nose. I used to get laughed at anyway, off on a tangent. Look, we're focusing on the book. She has these lovely images of, like, I think she's even posted them on her Instagram. She, like, these styles that are very sort of Yoruba. She references the Yoruba a lot because she's obviously Yoruba. I'm assuming that her dad is Yoruba and her dad is Yoruba and her mum is Irish. She references a lot of Yoruba hairstyles, even Yoruba spirituality, which I'm finding is actually turning into a trend. I don't know how people are feeling about it, but people are really tapping into the whole Yoruba spirituality, whereas it was, I mean, our parents and grandparents were tabooing that. They were calling that juju and voodoo and all that. Now it's, I feel like with the younger generation, my generation and younger, it's definitely something that is being celebrated more so now, and something that is actually, you know, people are practicing it because people are trying to step away from Christianity, or, you know, just tap more into their blackness. And it is what it is. I don't have anything to say. I don't have any qualms with that. You have to do what works for you, isn't it? You know, she talks about the pre-colonial kingdom, some of which I'm aware of, like the Bini kingdom. She talks about, you know, the Yoruba kingdom, the first so-called explorers that, you know, came to Nigeria. It wasn't called Nigeria at the time, and how they described the Bini kingdom. There's actually a really good documentary on Netflix that I want to watch, and I might talk about it, but stop right there. The concept of time. I love how she breaks down how our ancestors felt about time, or how we created time to do things, and how the westernized form of time, concept of time, is very different to how our ancestors used to deal with time. Like, Westerners would see it as, you know, units, and that's how we all see it nowadays around the world. Like, it's literally units, and you have to do certain things within a certain amount of time. Like, we're always like trying to do things against time, trying to chase time, whereas our ancestors were very much of the notion of creating time. And I think she jokes about the whole black, like, African timing and African, like, black people timing, like how we're late for everything. Like, we create time. It's like I mean, it's a joke that we use, but maybe it's true to our ancestors, that you wouldn't say, oh, so when will you come back? When will you finish such and such thing? It'd be like, no, well, it's going to take however long it takes to do. If it's hunting out for food, if it took 2 days, and it takes 2 days. Yes, they understood time as a, you know, like there were sundials and things in place, but time was something that our ancestors created and not something that was against us. I love how she talks about the practices within the women in the community. I think she spoke about how men used to actually, you know, braid their hair as well, and how when the first explorers, Europeans, whatever, came, and how they actually saw our hair as beautiful before they had other ideas in mind and started calling us savages and barbaric and all sorts. They were actually admiring our way of life and how we practiced things, and how we styled our hair, and how our aesthetic was very different. And, you know, nowadays, like, because we're all so westernized, and we've all conformed to how we use time now, we sort of think that having natural hair is too time consuming. That was the nature of how our ancestors did their hair. Like, it takes time, and time wasn't considered in the way that it is considered today. If it takes 2 to 3 hours, if it takes half the day, that is part of your grooming process. That's really, really empowering to listen to that. And it's made me enjoy doing, like, I like getting my hair done anyway. Obviously, having had the experience of having relaxed hair and straightened hair, I'm like, I've been there, done that, worn the t-shirt. I don't necessarily want to go back to that. I'm not shunning anybody who relaxes their hair. You do you, boo. I think what I've taken from that is really enjoying the process of doing my little girl's hair, and I love that she loves the finished look, and I make it an enjoyable process for her. So we do watch Disney movies and we watch girly stuff, and, you know, like, I treat her like the little princess that she is. We are practicing something that is within our culture, and I love how she talks about, you know, like the passing on of the culture, and something that hasn't been lost or broken. That, like, I might not always have the time to do my daughter's hair, but while I do have the time, create it, because I might get busier. She, you know, as she gets older, she'll get her life or whatever, but I mean, I might get busier. Life changes, my lifestyle might change, but while I'm in this current season in my life and I have the time, don't neglect it. And also, by doing it young, I feel like, you know, I'm getting her used to it. She's getting used to it, and I want her to love that. But yeah, that's a big thing that I've taken from the book. I'd love for you to, if you have read the book, comment below. I know I've missed out on so many things because I've literally just finished reading it. You know, she talks about the term black is beautiful, and even just saying that, like, it's good to say it and to repeat it, but in the day and age that we are now, maybe it's just not enough. Does she touch on anti-blackness within the black community, or am I making that up? I might be making that up. I don't know. Yeah, she does talk about anti-blackness within the black community, because the whole brown paper test and the sororities and this elite. She also touches on the whole sheer moisture controversy, how that all played out, the investors involved, why things could have gone sour. Love that. I could see myself reading it again, because it's a good read. Let me be specific. If you have 4C hair, the kinky coily type, it might make you feel, especially if you're on this natural hair journey and being part of the natural hair community, it might make you feel a little bit differently about your hair, maybe better, hope not worse. It reinforces that these beauty standards that we're all trying to, majority of us, even white women, are trying to aspire to. it's like it's not for us, so just look the way you look. She's even got memes in the book. Oh my gosh, look at this. Does anybody remember this meme? Ha 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 ha. The sips tea. Oh yeah, yeah, this is the chapter where she talks about men and their hair, and the whole texturism is not just targeted at black women, but also black men who have type 4C hair as well, and how it's affected them and how they style their hair today and why it's so low and shaven. Comment below if you've read it. Tell me some of your thoughts. Let's talk about it. Share with me some of the things that I've missed out, some of the things that I haven't touched on, some of the things that you really enjoyed. As I think I've seen her in real life at least twice, but in passing, and I've one time I feel like we looked at each other in the eye, and I almost wanted to say, oh my gosh, I love your work. But I thought, you know what, it might be inappropriate because she was with her children. Yeah, but I literally wanted to go because we locked eyes. She's actually a hottie in real life as well. The first time I saw her, she kind of walked past me really quickly, but I recognized the side of her face. I'd be seeing famous people every now and again, and I'm like, I need to know. Sometimes I want to be like, but I need to just reel it back in. Anyway, got nothing to do with the book. Thank you so much for watching this video. Comment, like, subscribe. If you've read the book, let me know. If you haven't, I swear I've got a reading list on Amazon. Yeah, I might put in my reading list in the description box. And if you haven't already, it might be an affiliated link, but you need for help, persist out in all ways, any way you can. Anyway, until my next video, thank you so much for watching. Hit the notification bell if you haven't done already. I make videos on a weekly basis. Until my next video, respect your edges. Bye.